and welcome to the darkness that is the witching hour. I'm your incredibly cool host, Wolfman Dan. Today we're going to be looking around, seeing what happens. Maybe we'll get lucky. It's been a creepy night here in South Carolina. Really, it has. Earlier tonight, I heard some wood knocks going on. I heard some strange stuff happening. You gotta give me about 2 minutes to get my little stuff set up the way I like it. I want to be able to give y'all a good view because we actually had action here in South Carolina tonight. I heard some wood knocks. I whooped out the cool dog. Cool dog didn't see shit. Now, that's the way it goes. I want to thank everybody for joining me. The one of you who actually showed up. I appreciate you. I'm going to give people a chance to come in and play some of my man, Pat McCormick. Hey, check out the new theme for The Witching Hour. Can anybody in chat name that tune? Trying to put these things out in the dark, guys. Yeah. Check into the chat so I know who's watching this bad show. And I promise you it'll be on. really sucky, bad show. You can count on that. Greetings, the truth. We're listening to some Pat McCormick as he's bringing in some really cool tunes to start off my show. Later on, I'm going to play some Bigfoot Michigan Rob stories like I always do. And I'm going to check out some new Bigfoot songs. And somebody let me know how good the sound is. And that is Pat McCormick jamming out some really cool tunes. He's a great guitar player. And he does most of my theme songs for my shows. So you can hear him play the theme for 13 o'clock live on Saturday nights. Wrist Thrill Factor Kill. And you can hear him play all kinds of cool theme songs in the upcoming days on here on the Witching Hour. And on the Witching Hour, we sit back, we play some cool tunes, we relax, we catch a good buzz. Greetings, Uncle Bones. And the main thing we do is we listen to my man, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, tell us some Bigfoot Dogman encounters from his new book, True Cryptid Encounters, and a few things that's not in the book. So stick around with the Wolfman Dan, and we'll get into the first story right now. Hey, guess what? We gotta do a little commercial break. And that was it.
Hello everybody, it's Sunday, and yes, it's me, Bigfoot Michigan Rob, with another encounter story for everybody. Again, it is Sunday. Happy 4th of July coming up on Tuesday. Quick program note, Tuesday Beyond BMR at 9 o'clock in the East will not be on 4th of July, taking the day off. However, I'll be back Thursday live with Krista at noon Central, 1 in the East. We'll have Amber from Amber's Paraworld. She's a paranormal investigator. However, she came across some alleged Bigfoot and Dogman sightings or encounters doing her paranormal research. That's going to be a fabulous show. Thanks to each and every single one of you for subscribing to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube. If not already, please do so. You do know 2 live shows on Tuesday at 9, Thursday at 1 in the East. I appreciate everybody's support. The super thanks is open for those who care to donate. This story has got everything. It's a Bigfoot encounter in upstate New York, and it's got the preceding investigation after the encounter. So let's get on with it. Again, thanks for subscribing. I appreciate everybody for your support. Here we go. It was a frightful day on October 27th. The year is 2011. My name is Frank, and I and my wife Julie had quite an event while sitting on our back porch. Our property is about 3 acres that backs up to the forest, where my wife and I live in a quaint town in upstate New York. Julie and I were watching several deer graze about 20 yards outside of the woodline when all of a sudden, something running on all fours came blazing from the tree line. Upon approaching one of the deer, it stood upright, ran several feet, grabbed the deer around the neck, seemed to twist and break the deer's neck, then bipedally ran back into the woods. Julie and I sat in disbelief. We never, in the 6 years living on this property, had ever experienced anything like this. It was a common occurrence to see deer and other wildlife on the property, but never experienced such a violent display. To make this even more terrifying was the fact that this beast so fluidly grabbed up the deer like a feather and ran on its 2 legs. Certainly, bears can go up on 2 legs, but are awkward in their approach. This was very graceful and very fluid, extremely natural. Julie and I are very aware of the possible existence of Bigfoot, as our friend Tim studies and researches the subject some 20 miles from our home where he lives. We also have watched documentaries on the subject whenever we happen to catch on a local television cable program. This purely is for our entertainment, with a slight belief in such creatures like Bigfoot existing. The next day, I decided to call Tim and tell him about what we had witnessed. After the next day's conversation with Tim, he had asked if I went out to the area where we saw this great event and told where this event took place, and I told him I had not. He told me to go have a look, and he would come by within the hour. Julie, meanwhile, told me just to wait for Tim before going to look at the area of the encounter. And to be honest, I had zero intentions of venturing out to the wood line and decided to just sit there and wait for Tim. Tim arrived just about 3 o'clock, and we walked out to the area in question. Tim came with a camera, tape measure, casting material, and binoculars. He was so very excited to go take a look at my property where Julie and I experienced this event. Tim has been researching Bigfoot for about 6 years after proclaiming to have seen a Bigfoot while camping in Ohio with his family. Tim had told me that during his encounter, he witnessed yellow eyeshine that had hovered about 8 feet above the ground with a shadow cast from the woods that took the shape of some sort of bipedal hominid. Since that day, he has been immersed in the subject of Bigfoot and has gone on a variety of expeditions and attends many conferences on the subject across the United States. So needless to say, Tim was stoked. We approached the approximate area where Julie and my sighting took place, and immediately Tim started looking for clues or evidence. It did not take long before we both came across several bipedal tracks that laid freshly upon the grass and dirt on the ground. Clearly, the tracks were human-like. One of the tracks was perfect. Clearly outlined on the ground was a track with the perfect arrangement of 5 toes with an immense foot track. The track itself was measured at 19 inches long and almost 6 inches wide. Other tracks were found, but not as prominent as this one. Tim said to me, "Frank, you have a Bigfoot." Tim was giddy like a kid. I, to be honest, felt excitement running through my body. I quickly called out to Julie to have her come out and have a look. Julie arrived, and she too felt the excitement by the expression that I saw on her face. The question now remains, what is our next step? Tim grabbed his casting material and went about creating the cast, and we went back to the house to indeed discuss our next plan of action. Julie made dinner, and we spent the entire evening leading into the night talking about Bigfoot. It was decided that Tim and I would go hiking back in the woods the next morning and look for more evidence and hopefully come across some more tracks. 6 a.m. the following day, Tim and I went off on our journey. Julie kissed me and wished us a safe and eventful travel. She was a little reluctant about my looking for Bigfoot, but she too was intrigued, and she did understand. Tim and I set off into the woods directly at the tree line where the Bigfoot had first emerged. We were off. The both of us had immense adrenaline flowing and acted like school kids upon embarking on this adventure. After an hour or so hiking upon a rather narrow trail, we came upon a set of tracks almost identical to the tracks left on my property. Tim, again, set a cast, and after measuring the track, it again was the same measurement from the earlier cast. We now believe we do have the evidence that Bigfoot is in my area. We ventured further several miles when in the distance we heard a wood knock. It was extremely loud and reminded me of the sound you hear at a baseball game when the batter smacks a home run at the stadium. We stopped for several minutes to observe. I, having my phone, activated my recorder in the hopes of hearing another wood knock. What I was about to record was not that of a wood knock, but that of a typical whoop, the sound that Bigfoot allegedly makes. Then, 20 seconds later or so, another whoop. This, however, was coming from another direction and was a little bit further out. Tim spoke to me. "Frank, my friend, there is not only one Bigfoot here, but I do believe the second whoop was an answer or response to the very first vocalization." My head is swooning with excitement, and we venture yet deeper into the woods. Within a half hour or so, we came across a huge X structure in the woods. The trees were uprooted, and the root bulbs crossed each other at the top of the X, with the top of the trees firmly implanted in the ground before us. The structure was at least 18 feet tall by 12 feet wide, immense. Tim and I are grinning ear to ear, and we are literally flabbergasted. Going back over all the evidence, firstly, the encounter that Jules and I had with the deer, that I now believe was a Bigfoot. The footprints, finding yet another footprint that matched the first, the 2 whoops, and now this X structure. Tim and I decided it was time to head back home, and it was getting late in the day, and we have ventured at least 3 hours into the woods. I got home to tell Julie about our findings, and she too was filled with excitement. Since this experience, Julie and I have joined Tim in his investigations, and we too have become Bigfoot researchers. As far as this story goes, I have never seen the Bigfoot we experienced that day, nor have we seen any new or fresh tracks. The X structure still remains. We are decided and dedicated to finding more about this elusive creature, and it has added definitely a new chapter in our life. I think that was a great story. It was a little bit shorter, but hey, you know what?
Hey, I love that story, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. You'll find his link in the chat. Everybody should check out him. Bigfoot Michigan Rob has a new book coming out, True Cryptid Encounters. Boy, I'm coughing bad tonight. There's somebody in the neighborhood is burning a fire, and the smoke smells like somebody's putting big giant cow patties on the fire. It stinks. It's horrible. It's a nasty smell. Before the fire started, I was hearing some wood knocks in the woods. I was hearing strange things going on around the house. But you know, of course, I get ready to live stream, and the Wolfman Dan gets ready to go on and thinking, hey, on this live stream tonight, I might catch some. You might see a Bigfoot. You might hear a wood knock or a howl or something. But of course, the smoke comes up and kind of scared everything in the neighborhood off. Hey, here's a long one for you from Bigfoot Michigan Rob. And right after this long story from Alabama about a dog man here with Wolfman Dan, I'm gonna get Bigfoot Rob to tell you about that dog man in Alabama. It's a little bit long, I'll grant you. But right after that, I'm gonna play you some Bigfoot songs that I bet you never heard. I even got a special one for you, Mr. Harper, so stick around.
Get back to your best smile during Aspen Dental's Summer of Smiles
And we
event
gotta
with
do a little
20% off
commercial for
dentures.
Aspen
Book
Dental,
today.
because we love Aspen Dental.
Hey everybody, it's me, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. It's time for another emailer or subscriber encounter story. This is an email sent to me by Larry. And I've got to tell you guys, this is about a dog man in Alabama. This story is going to be a minute.
I'm gonna
It's
do a
incredible.
sound check real quick, too.
It's mysterious. And perhaps mysterious is not the words that I'm searching for. It's kind of tragic. And again, it goes back to cover-ups, and it goes back to these agencies, these departments. They want to keep us in the dark. If we were not kept in the dark, this uneventful encounter might have turned out differently. So I'm going to get on with it. Again, it's going to be a minute. Thanks to everybody for subscribing to Bigfoot to Michigan Rob. I love and appreciate each and every single one of you that comes in and listens or watches. I appreciate you ever so much. Smells, scratching, thud, thud, heavy breathing, wolf-like fangs and claws. Then I awoke. What a nightmare, I had thought to myself. I quickly got out of bed and put on a fresh pot of coffee. It was 5 in the morning on a Saturday. I realized I got up a good hour before the alarm went off. But that dream spooked me. I laughed it off and went to the front porch to get my paper. That does sound funny, doesn't it, the paper? The year was 1997, when print was still a main source for getting the news, not like today's sensationalism and false narratives of the left and the right. I missed those days. I was 29 back then, some 26 years ago. How time flies. When I approached my front door, I thought to myself, it was particularly odd that during my dream, I had the sense of smell. In fact, that smell grew stronger while I made my approach. Sure enough, on my front porch lay the dead carcass of a hog. This hog was from the belly, split open, and missing all of its entrails. There was no blood, no guts or gore left on my porch, just an emptied, dead hog carcass. In fact, it was totally dry. I went to investigate around my porch and front yard, and I found the muddied tracks of what appeared to be a massive dog. The tracks were suspicious, with only 3 digits, not 4, extending from what appeared to be a canine footpad. There were a few scratch marks on my wooden front porch, deeply ground into the wood. Whatever this was heavy, and the tracks were strangely bipedal. I live in the state of Alabama, which had a population of red wolves that are now protected as they were extricated in the 1920s and are extremely rare for these parts. So these tracks mystified me. What really spooked me besides these bipedal tracks was the dead carcass. I even wonder why the smell was so bad. The entire body was almost entirely dry, with an odor from the external coverings of its body. I could not find a source for the stench, unless the entrails were devoured within minutes of my discovering this oddity. The body still remained a mystery, with the dehydrated lack of any fluids. I called my friend Brody, who served as a DNR agent, and asked him if he could come over and help me with the current situation. Immediately after my explanation of the events, he immediately rushed over to my home. Brody arrived a little past 8 in the morning. He was already investigating around my property before I could even greet him with a fresh cup of coffee. He was taking pictures all about the property, walking out to the edge of my tree line, circling my house. Then his phone rang. He had approximately a 10-minute conversation before he finally acknowledged me and motioned me inside my home, where I poured him a coffee and sat down to speak. Brody was a bit nervous and tepid, almost searching for words. I had to remind him that we had been friends for over 20 years and told him to get on with it. Whatever you have to say can't be that bad. I spit it out, Brody, I proclaimed. Hastily, Brady proceeded to talk. Larry. The emailer's name is Larry. Brody spoke out to me. Well, you have a situation. I do believe. I, being Larry, live in Tuskegee, Alabama. Brody works for the Tuskegee National Forest, which backs up to my home. What my friend was about to tell me put my head in a tailspin. I stopped him and asked, "Are you joking? This is not funny at all." Brody assured me that he was very serious and just to listen to what he had to say. I poured us another coffee and sat back and I listened. Brody went on to ask me what I knew about cryptids, more specifically Dogman. Dogman, I replied. No, not at all. I even asked what a cryptid was, as I was not sure. Although the word itself to me sounded creepy, he went on about how Bigfoot was classified as a cryptid. I then asked, so this is the work of Bigfoot? Still not quite sure what he really had meant. Brody explained further what he thinks that killed the hog and left it on my front porch was this dog-like upright creature. Not quite dog nor wolf, but something that walked upright on his hind legs and has been known to roam the forests of North America.
I'm going to take a few seconds here, and I want to give a special shout out to AAP Variety Channel in the chat. Hey, I love your stuff, man. It's good to see you in. And my good friend Iron Dogger, the Alaskan Goddess, who has joined the chat. Everybody be sure to check out her channel. I've actually known her longer than about anybody on YouTube. So she's considered a special friend of the Danny Dan, of the Wolfman Dan. So everybody hit that subscribe for her. Do me that one little favor.
My head was spinning, and I asked if I was in danger, and Brody explained that he was not quite sure. He admitted that this sounded crazy and that this phenomena is something that he himself had just been clued in about by a supervisor at work who brought it up to him one day in the field while investigating some unknown animal tracks in the Tuskegee. It was to be kept under wraps at work while the investigation went on. He also told me that some higher-ranking government officials paid a visit to the office several months ago. The officials entered the office, spoke with his supervisor, when he was then made aware of their new project. This project was to go looking for these creatures and try and get a picture, capture, or kill one for studying. Again, it was to be held in the strictest of confidence, and not to ever be made public or spoken to anybody outside of the office. What a crazy mystery, and frankly unbelievable. A fabrication that I just could not believe. It sounded ridiculous. An upright, dog-like creature roaming the forests. And to be in my very own backyard at that. Brody then calmly put his hand on my shoulder and told me to get my gear ready, as he was going to take me with him and hopefully show me exactly what he was talking about. Before leaving, Brody went out to his car and retrieved several pictures of what he was talking about and showed me. He said, "For your eyes only." There were several photos of what appeared to be a massive, dark-looking wolf-like dog peering in from the brush. It had a massive head and rather large-shaped eyes. Still, it was just a picture of a head with no body, and really, the photo could have been of anything. I had mentioned to him that the woods cast some strange shadows, and this proved nothing. Pareidolia, perhaps. Brody showed me another set of pictures, but again, it was nothing that really stood out to me. Still not convinced of this dog-man being, Brody brought in a casting that he took several weeks ago. The cast was about 7 inches long by maybe 4 inches wide. My eyes grew wide as I took note of the 3 distinguishing looking digits in the paw pad. The cast was identical to what I found on my porch. Now, my heart started to flutter. The palms of my hands grew damp, and now I feared that something not known to me was out there and close to my home. I told Brody, "Sign me up. Let's go find this thing." It was early morning a few days later when we set upon our journey. Our destination was straight through my backyard to the Tuskegee National Park. This was not going to be a one-day hike. We brought a tent, research equipment, and all the basic gear needed to help in our investigation. We managed to get in some leisure time to fish and catch a day's meal or two. The first 2 days we found nothing. It was not until the early morning on the third day where we stumbled upon the tracks, those same tracks that were on my porch and what Brody and his group had cast. This was both exciting and admittingly frightful. We went back to camp and repositioned our location to where the tracks were found. Later that night, we sat around a campfire and sat quiet to listen and to observe. The time was about 3 o'clock in the morning when we heard a howl, a distinctive howl. Not quite a dog or wolf, but a sound that sounded more like an echoing growl. A terrifying sound that frankly sounded more like a late-night monster movie on television. Brody and myself put out the fire, grabbed our sidearms and a shotgun, then proceeded to hike toward the location of this horrific howl. The howls grew louder the further we hiked. We finally stopped and determined that we were within about 100 yards of these strange vocalizations. Then the howl stopped. The forest grew eerily silent. So silent that I could hear the fluttering breath from my friend Brody. We must have sat in silence for a half hour, but nothing. It was almost at daybreak, so we decided to get back to camp and get some rest. Disappointingly, in finding nothing except for the howls, we spoke with each other on our trek back to camp to plan our next method of action. Then, 50 yards from camp, the sun broke. We were looking down at the trail ahead of us, and these same tracks appeared. And they were fresh. They were three-toed. With the footpad and the tracks, well, they were bipedal. The measurement was almost 8 inches long by 4 inches wide. They were again a match from our previous discovered tracks in the Talladega and at my house. These tracks did not stop either. We realized that they were getting closer and closer to our campsite. Finally, we reached our camp. To our dismay, the camp was ransacked and completely destroyed. Our tent was slashed, almost like a thick razor slashed through the thick canvas with the relative ease of the tent. Those tracks littered the campsite. All the gear was strewn about, the food was tossed about, the fishing poles were broken in half, and the rest of our gear was missing. We walked several yards from camp and found more of our gear. Then amazingly, the tracks stopped, almost like they disappeared. Brody and I had decided to head back to take pictures of these tracks and see if any of our casting material was not misplaced or strewn about. Thankfully, upon reaching camp, we found that the casting kit was intact and still at the campsite. With our haste and speeding back to camp, we now realize that all of the footprints have vanished. Not a single track remained. We walked back to the woodline and to the trail, which we came from earlier, and again, no tracks. The tracks are gone, you guys. These tracks that were littered in camp and on the trail are now gone. Larry says, what type of voodoo are we dealing with? Both Brody and I are literally terrified and think that we are in a different dimension or some sort of parallel universe. We just can't explain this. We're confused and scared. Did we walk through a portal? What has happened? What is going on? Then the most horrific and mind-blowing thing happened. Brody looked at me. It was an empty look. I looked into Brody's eyes, and I might as well have been looking through the eyes of a lifeless doll. He uttered the words, "I am sorry," and he sped off back into the woods. I raced behind Brody trying to keep up, but he was much faster and in better shape than I. He lost me. I spent 3 hours looking for Brody until I finally found him. Thank God, I yelled. I yelled aloud and called out Brody's name. He was 30 feet away and should have easily heard me. Then as I approached, Brody's body was lying limp, propped up against a tree. A pool of blood surrounded him. I screamed into the wilderness, cursing at this creature for the apparent murder of Brody. Then I looked closer. In Brody's right hand was the carbon hunting knife. and his throat had been slashed from ear to ear. Brody took his life. Or did he? This story can go much further, but I will end it here. I called the DNR and Brody's supervisor to report the incident. Brody's boss arrived and told me not to repeat this to anybody and that they would take it over from here.
I
never heard back regarding an official explanation for Brody's death. The DNR was implicit in my silence. 3 weeks later, stuffed in my mailbox was a yellow envelope with $10,000 in cash. A note read, in quotes, "For your silence." I sped back to Brody's DNR office seeking answers, only to find that the entire staff had been transferred. One man, the supervisor, took me by the shoulder and told me to walk away. I have not had any new experiences and have not heard since from the DNR department. In fact, I have moved to the East Coast. I still today look over my shoulder, for today my life is not my own. I wonder what happened to Brody. I wonder why I was rushed off. I'm wondering why I can't get answers. In every path I take down and look down, I get silenced. And the threats, they get stronger, they get more bold, and they get life-threatening. Please tell this story to the people that follow you. These stories need to be heard. I thank you so much.
Greetings, and welcome to the chat. Scared Silly, good to see you. Hey, I just added you as a moderator. You feel free to drop your link anytime you want to. And that goes for anybody in the chat here on the Wolfman Dan show called The Witching Hour. Everybody is welcome to drop their link in the chat, because I believe in show and grow. We all a big family here. If you're a Daddy Dan fan, if you own the Wolfman Dan show, you're part of the family. If I put you in blue, you know what to do. And like I promised after them intense tales from Bigfoot Michigan Rob, and I want to once again entice everybody to do what I did in order. Bigfoot Michigan Rob's book, True Cryptid Encounters, Volume 1. And it's one of the best books I've ever owned. And I own a lot of books. I'm going to make a video about a bunch of books I own sometime real soon. And like I promised, I'm going to bust out some Bigfoot songs now for a little while. Going to play some tunes I bet you guys never heard. Sit back, relax, take a big hit off the vape pen, fire up the bowl, whatever you guys do for fun. And just relax and enjoy the tunes.
One day at midnight, the sun was so bright, the moon had no light.
This one's from
that
Michael
I
Harper.
could see. This big old Sasquatch said he was top notch at playing hopscotch way up in a tree. So I bet my wristwatch that big old Sasquatch could never play hopscotch way up in a tree. Now there's a Sasquatch up in a tree crotch. He's got my wristwatch and he's laughing at me. I told the Mounties throughout the counties to put some bounties all over BC and stop the Sasquatch from playing hopscotch till he gives my wristwatch right back to me. Then Corporal Savern, he found a tavern in an empty cavern where the sun don't shine, and he found that Sasquatch drinking blue blotch, wearing a wristwatch looking just like mine. So he asked the Sasquatch where he got the wristwatch. That big old Sasquatch, he began to lie. Said he got the wristwatch from playing hopscotch up in a tree crotch with a stupid old guy. So the Mountie told him he could never hold him. He'd have to scold him for doing no harm. So they played some hopscotch until the Sasquatch had the Mountie's wristwatch on his other arm. Now all the Mounties throughout the counties, they're placing bounties all over the land. And that big old Sasquatch, he won't feel top-notch when they get their Sasquatch like they get their man. 'Cause if that Sasquatch keeps playing hopscotch, there won't be a wristwatch 4 miles around. 'Cause he'll play hopscotch till he gets your wristwatch up in that tree crotch, and he'll never come down. So don't play hopscotch near any old tree crotch until that old watch stealing, big feeling hopscotch and Sasquatch is found.
I love that song. That's from Michael Harper. And here's one for the Caucasian Sasquatch. Workout live stream, Harper. We don't want to see your bad body press doing beach presses. Look, Harper, you know I stick up for you, boy. I stick up for you, Harper, when everybody's criticizing you. You know that. So please, for the love of God, don't do no more workout streams. Don't bare your chest on YouTube and start pumping iron. Don't give the evil troll Mox a reason to mess with you. I'm wore thin from taking up for you, brother. I really am. You know that, Michael. You know that. I love you, brother. But they're messing with you hard. Michael Harper, everybody subscribe him because he's the revolution against trolls. Because everybody wants to troll Michael for some reason. I don't know why. I stuck up for him on a live stream and the trolls attacked me. Believe it or not, don't worry, Daddy Dan got even. I made the troll a special little channel and showed his little inbred face to the world. So don't fuck with Daddy Dan. Don't fuck with the Wolfman Dad or you might get bit. Hey, anybody know who Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin are? Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin are the guys who made that famous Bigfoot video back in the day. Did you know they wrote a folk song about them guys? I bet you didn't. I'm gonna play one more little song here, and then I'm gonna do another story by Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Hey, check this out. It's the folk song about Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin that I bet you never heard. If it ever starts. It's dedicated to Bob Gimlin and Roger Patterson.
Maybe I'll have my own punk singer documentary coming out.
And it's from a documentary coming up as this Duke is telling us real quick.
Is this working out? Can you hear lots of noise? You guys trying to sing? We didn't have bouncing ball capabilities, but that's the true spirit of the movie. The laser might have freaked out the big cats.
Oh, bear with me a minute. He's getting his goddamn guitar out because he's old and slow.
Okay. Woo! Yeah, wanna call it burn up?
You need to get rid of your bulging trolls.
What's your name for Bobcat the Cat Stick and Recruit Tree? Next song is a tribute to Bob Gimlin, who's a friend of ours, and to the achievement of Patterson and Gimlin, because that is the real deal, no matter what anyone says. So I thought they need a song. So this is called Roger and Bob. Rhode Island. Roger and Bob, Rhode Island. After that, Bob jammed out everybody.
Yeah, that's a special tribute to Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin. You gotta love that stuff, right? I hope y'all can hear it real good. That's the best copy of that song I could find. And I looked around everywhere. Hey, I'll be back to play a few more songs later on. And I'm gonna play some classics, I always do that. But, it's time for another story. And with Halloween approaching, let's play this little quick tale from Bigfoot Michigan Rob from last Halloween to get us in the mood for the upcoming holiday. If you follow the Daddy Dan blog, for the last 5 months, I've been doing classic comic books every week based on TV shows, the good stuff. Well, starting really soon, probably about the first of next month, Daddy Dan on the Daddy Dan blog is going back to doing the horror movie stuff, the horror comics, the vampires, the werewolves, and the monsters for the next few months. So things are really gonna pick up. Hey, check out this tale from last Halloween. Right after the sponsors give us a quick word about tampons. What?
Everybody, it's me, Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. I hope your Sunday is going off fabulous. Mine sucked. The Lions lost.
The lines.
Great announcement to make. I'm very excited. Beyond BMR, my new show. Tuesday, the 27th, 9 Eastern, right here on Bigfoot Michigan Rob channel. We dive into the rabbit holes of everything. Cryptids, aliens, UFOs, ghosts, hauntings, unknown and strange phenomenon. I kick off Tuesday's show with a great guest, Robin McCrae. We talk mind speak with Sasquatch. But what's great about this show, you guys, we're going to talk about my Bigfoot. We're going to talk about mind speak with my Bigfoot. I'm going to put this puppy to rest because after this show, I'm done talking about my Bigfoot. Month of October, Halloween. I'm going to be putting out some scary stories for you guys all month long, along with Bigfoot and Dogman Encounters. I hope you like this. This will be a basic one. This is a basic one. A lot of you guys probably heard this, but what a way to start with Ed Gein's farm. Ed Gein's farm. Here we go. While searching a shed behind the isolated farmhouse that belonged to 50-year-old handyman Ed Gein on November 16th of 1957, Waushara County Sheriff Arthur Slade made a gruesome discovery. The body of a woman, decapitated and disemboweled, strung up by the heels from the ceiling. The body was that of Bernice Warden, 58, a widow whose disappearance from her hardware store that day. Gein had been there the night she vanished. There was blood spattered all over the floor, which prompted a police investigation. A further search of the 8-room home turned up many grisly finds, including human skulls, a lampshade made from the skin of a human face, and Warden's head in a burlap sack. Gein had killed at least 2 women, and he also regularly robbed fresh burial plots at local cemeteries. He was obsessed with making a woman's suit out of the hides of his victims and the bodies he stole from the graves. Police found several items that had been fashioned from human skin, among them leggings, a vest, and several masks. Since the death of his mother in 1945, Gein had lived alone in the cluttered first-floor bedroom and kitchen of the home. The other 6 rooms, untouched since his mother's passing, were still nearly furnished in the old style from 50 years ago or before. The door leading from the kitchen to the rest of the house had been boarded up. In 1958, the farmhouse burnt down under mysterious circumstances. Gein was found guilty in 1968 of killing Warden, but deemed insanity at the time of the crime. He was committed to a mental hospital where he stayed until he died in 1984. This is just a teaser. I've got a lot of stuff on the back burner to provide you guys. Haunted hotels, mysterious deaths, mysteries, ghosts, things that Halloween are made of. And I'm going to provide it for you. And yeah, I'm going to throw in the occasional Bigfoot and Dogman encounter story. But you know what? It's Halloween. Let's do something crazy. Let's do something different. Please subscribe to Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. Beyond BMR Tuesday, the 27th. Lightspeed, Robin McCrae.
Thank you, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. I love them old Halloween tales. Hey, let me point out something to the people in the chat. I see we're talking about diabetes and stuff. So let me tell you a quick little Daily Dan story. 2 years ago, AAP, Daily Dan weighed almost 300 pounds. Daily Dan had diabetes so bad, they were threatening to give Daily Dan insulin. Daily Dan's blood pressure was off the chain. Daily Dan always had blood pressure so high they were worried about me having a heart attack. Daily Dan had 2 strokes that damn near killed me. Daily Dan went on keto. 2 years ago, I went on keto from the guy, I put his link in the chat, my keto guru, Matt Troisi. The man who saved Daily Dan's life, really, because I went on keto. And in 2 years, I went from almost 300 pounds down to 266, the lowest body weight I've had since 1984. I no longer have blood sugar issues. I no longer have high blood pressure issues. Other than my knee being messed up and my incredible love of vodka and drugs, I'm 100% really healthy now on account of keto. So let me recommend a keto lifestyle and a carnivore style diet, mainly meats. And if you can cut all the sugars out of your life, you will change your life. I know because it worked for me. I'm no longer on death's door thanks to keto, guys. Just saying, you can do whatever your heart desires. Hey, did y'all know there was a dog man in Georgia? So let's check out Bigfoot Michigan Rob telling us about a dog man in Georgia real quick.
Hey everybody, Bigfoot Michigan Rob here. I've got another subscriber emailed in encounter story for you. Now this is Tuesday, and you guys, I normally do this on Saturday, but Saturday was a big weekend, a lot of family activity, so I do apologize for that. This is a cool story. In fact, you know what I'm going to do? The format's a little different today. I typically read this right off the email, but BMR, yeah, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to tell the story as though we're sitting around the campfire. And yes, I'm going to use my memory. I've read this thing like 10 times, and so instead of reading, I'm going to recite it. Leave a comment if you like this format, or if you want to tell me, you know what, Rob, just continue to read them. This shouldn't be too long. It's pretty cool. I don't know if this is a dog man or what, but, you know, I found this tale to be different, creepy. I don't know. In fact, it comes from Tom and Mary in Southwest Georgia, and they totally want to remain anonymous. This happens in 2015. They were recently retired, so they want to get a retirement place. They found a place, again, in Southwest Georgia, about 3 acres of property. The property was a horseshoe style. In fact, the home itself was a kind of like a ranch style home with big wraparound deck, and there also was a barn on the property, a dilapidated barn that Tom and Mary decided they would just, they didn't spend no time in there. They looked at it, they're going to tear it down is what they had decided. So the first year, Tom and Mary are cultivating their property, making it the way they like to make it. The following year in the evening, Tom and Mary are sitting on their back porch, on their nice wraparound deck. At the top of the horseshoe, Tom is looking and says to Mary, do you see what appears to be like a set of eyes? You know, they were glowing. Tom describes it as being greenish yellow eyes, kind of right at the top of the horseshoe, right inside the tree line. The eyes are like 3 feet above ground, but they're like an amber greenish color, yellow. Mary's like, no, that's weird. You know, they hadn't seen anything like that. Now, I don't know. He does not say what type of animals around here, but Maid mentioned that it was weird. So Tom gets up, he goes into the home, gets a set of binoculars. Again, this is nighttime. And he couldn't see much. He just honed in and did see a set of eyes. But then Tom all of a sudden notices that the eyes that were 3 feet from ground level, they rise up maybe another 3 feet, and the eyes are now, through the binoculars, getting closer. He tells to Mary, hey honey, not to alarm you, just let's get in the house. She gets in the house, Tom gets in the house. Tom goes and grabs a shotgun and locks down all the doors, windows, what have you. He looks out the back toward the top of the tree line. These eyes are, yes, getting closer. Then all of a sudden, the eyes fade away. About 5-6 minutes, according to Tom, he feels something or somebody walking on his wraparound deck. But the eerie thing about the walking on this deck is this. Every time that the foot hit the ground, he could feel a scraping along the outside of his deck. Tom is looking out, he can't see anything. This goes on, Tom says, for maybe 20, 30 seconds. Tom gets out on his back porch, takes his shotgun and fires a blast into the air. Goes back in the house, doesn't hear anything. The footsteps, the footfall, the scraping disappears. He goes out onto the deck an hour later and he takes out a flashlight and sees 3 scrapes haphazardly about the deck. They were not in a uniform line or anything. They were just sporadic throughout the deck, but they were like long scrapes into the deck that went down, as he describes, about maybe a 1/4 inch deep into this wood. The next morning, Tom goes outside and kind of looks, and he picks up a couple sets of tracks, which were like 3-toed tracks, prints, coming up from the top of the horseshoe toward the house. For whatever reason, Tom decides now to go investigate the barn. He had only been in it once or twice, something he was not interested in. He goes in the barn, and in the barn was laden with dirt and a bunch of hay. It kind of had a smell to it. He's scraping around, and all of a sudden, as he's walking, he trips over something. He gets up, looks, starts uncovering the dirt, the hay, and he finds a bunch of deer bones. He said he saw like the leg bones, some rib cages, but not a head or anything, and just found that to be pretty creepy. Goes back to the house. Now he calls a local law enforcement to come out. Law enforcement comes out. They see the tracks, the three-toe tracks in the ground, and they saw the claw marks on his deck. And the sheriff or deputy, whoever it was, the law enforcement person, says, this place was on the market for such a long time because we've heard some weird stories about here about something at night that would come out and just roam the house, walk around the house, but nothing quite to the extent of leaving claw marks on the deck. And Tom took that for what it was worth. Tom has since said that nothing has happened since. He says he still lives there. He has not seen the eyes in the background or anything, thinking that perhaps the shotgun blast scared whatever this creature was off, but he still wonders about the bones in the shed, or the barn, I should say. The barn has been torn down. Life goes on. To this day, does not know what it was. It only happened once. And again, that's where the story ends. And I believe this story, it's not like this turned into, it happens now every day. You hear a lot of stories sometimes where things like this happen on a daily basis. This is a one-time deal. The eyes, 3 feet above ground, that rise in advance. The 3 toes. The gouging out on his wraparound deck. And the bones in the barn. Makes you wonder, you know. I don't know. A shotgun blast to me is not going to scare something off permanently, but according to Tom, has not had a problem since. So he said in that story, I thought it was pretty cool to share.
I love that story, and the cool part about that story, guys, is that little story comes from 51 miles. 51 miles from me as the crow flies right down the street in Dogman terms. What do y'all think about that story? Be sure to let me know in the comments below. And now I'm gonna find us some really cool Bigfoot songs that we know and love. And I'm gonna jam a couple of them and let y'all sit back, relax, and enjoy some tunes. Because you know the Wolfman Dan is really a DJ at heart. I spent a lot of time on a radio station in my younger days, spinning the tunes for people. It was the favorite time of my life.
Hey, I'm Skinny Steve. This is my submission for the Gems in the Rough 2021, and this is the Sasquatch song.
I love this one.
Well, in the mountains of Arkansas, that's where I go to break the law. Just trying to grow my mountain weed. When I get out in that trail, I get caught up in that smell. Looks like I'm here to stay for good. But wait a second, what's that there? Holy fuck, I think it's a bear. Nope,
There's thousands of them.
Way up on the mountainside, look what I found. Great big man tracks sinking in the ground. It's a legendary Sasquatch they're all harping on. But old Bigfoot, he's been there and gone. He's big around the middle and he's broad across the rump, going 90 miles an hour, taking 40-footed jump. Ain't ever been caught or ever run up a tree. Some folks say he sings a lot like me. He's been seen by almost everybody, almost everywhere. He'd mostly been seen when he wasn't even there. They say he's a monster with a mind of a child. I think he's just a logger that plumb went wild. Well, he's big around the middle and he's broad across the rump, going 90 miles an hour, taking 40-footed jump. Ain't ever been caught or ever run up a tree. Some folks say he sings a lot like me. They've chased old Bigfoot as far as he can go. When they'll catch and civilize him, well, nobody knows. He shouldn't have to suffer over modern man's whim. You wouldn't want your sister to go to school with him. Well, he's big around the middle and he's broad across the rump, going 90 miles an hour, taking 40-footed jump. Ain't ever been caught or ever run up a tree. Some folks say he sings a lot like me. Some folks say he looks a lot like me.
Hey, I want to dedicate this next song to my ex-wife, my very first wife, the one I left behind. And she loved the spicy chicken breakfast. What?
Within the pines of Allegheny, on the shady mountainside, I was strumming on my sixth string, and I planned to stay the night. I was putting back a six-pack, and I was howling at the moon. It was a lonely night, I brought plenty of shine, but when the beers were through, well, I was feeling pretty tipsy, and the night became a blur. When I woke up in the morning from my own damn snoring, in my bed was a bunch of birds. Well, I think I slept with Bigfoot, but I'm going off a bunch of hair. And I also got a photo, but the picture's not all that clear. Can't explain why I was naked. Where's my pants and where's my shirt? There's a print the size of a frying pan beside a bottle in the dirt. I'll tell you what, I got this itch on my butt. You can take it for what it's worth. Well, I think I slept with Bigfoot, and my backside's just as sure. Though it don't make sense, I lack the evidence. Please, oh please don't laugh. I know just what you're thinking. This drunk's just full of crap. In the pines of Allegheny, on the shady mountainside, I swear that there's a Bigfoot, and I slept with one as I implied.
Here's a song about the Fount Monster, the legend of Boggy Creek.
He
us to return someday.
Hey, I didn't say these songs were gonna be good. I just said I was gonna play some Bigfoot songs. Okay, I'll play you a good one. Special greetings to the Swerve Show in the house. Hey, Swerve, when are you going live again? We've all been waiting to hear your daily words on the wrestling empire, but you've been what do you call it? You've been leaving us, man. You have not been live, and it's been bothering the entire wrestling world. It really has there, dude. So, let us know in the comments, Swerve. When's your next live show? When are you going to crack down and criticize all the crap going on in wrestling today? Because let me tell you, I've been watching some wrestling and I'm totally disappointed. I can't wait to hear what you say about it. And welcome to Country Boy Explorer. Thanks for coming in the chat. Be sure to like, subscribe, ring that stupid little bell. Be sure to join Daddy Dan here, the Wolfman Dan show called The Witching Hour, and join Daddy Dan show as I do a 13 o'clock live on Saturday night, starting back real soon. I think I done one. I'll probably do one this week. And on the 13 o'clock live show, I'll be showing a movie and probably playing some videos and doing the best I can in my backwards hillbilly way. So now I'm going to get back to Bigfoot Michigan Rob, and he's going to tell us some Bigfoot stories. You know, the kind that's going to make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. And once again, I want to tell everybody to pick up Bigfoot Michigan Rob's new book, True Cryptid Encounters, Volume 1. I love this book. I can't promote it enough. I ordered it real quick, and I've been reading it. I'm about halfway done with it now. I can't read it at night, I tell you what. Hey, has anybody ever heard the Mount Shasta Bigfoot story?
Line or Street Canner. Hello, everybody. It's me, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. It's Friday. It's December 16th. How are you? Subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Please share me out. I got to tell you, my encounter stories, they go 8 to 10 minutes long usually. because that's about everyone's attention span. This is probably going to go 12 minutes, and I have to tell you something. Please listen all the way through. One of the best encounter stories that I've gotten. In fact, I had to rewrite a little bit of it and edit it down because it's just, this rolls. This rolls on and on and on. But again, keeping you folks in mind, I think I did a good job with this. You're going to enjoy it. Please subscribe to the channel. Merry Christmas. Mount Shasta Bigfoot. Mount Shasta, California. Hello, Rob. My name is Rick, and I love your subscriber encounters. In fact, it was you that spurred on this letter that you can use, and I urge you to share it. I have lived here for the past 15 years. My location is between Lake Siskiyou and Castle Lake Campground. I am somewhat of a loner, and where I live, you just can't beat it. Beautiful views of Mount Shasta in the background. The surrounding wilderness is all that I need. In a strange way, it keeps me alive for these past 15 years. I just turned 60 last fall and have not seen or heard from any of my family or friends during this time span. I am so lost in this world that I can't even tell you who is living or dead amongst my friends and family. I know, I sound like an odd bird. Kind of, Rick. The fact is that I am. But I'm not alone. I built a 1,500 square foot cabin, a log cabin, Rob, with a spacious bottom floor with the second level rising 10 feet above the ground with a wraparound deck. I have views on a 360-degree turn. I have a very powerful telescope atop the deck with a high-resolution camera built into it. It helps get great shots of Mount Shasta and the wilderness that I live in. I was never in a big hurry to build my cabin. It took roughly 2 years to complete, as I would travel back into the town past Lake Siskiyou to stay with my really only friend, Ron. In fact, Ron owned a construction company, and off the books, he and some of the employees helped in the construction of my log cabin. During the travels back and forth during this time period, I never paid attention to the wildlife, but it was there, you name it, we got it here in Shasta. From small ground rodents to massive elk and hawks to bald eagles taking flight in the sky. In year 3, I officially moved in. As I mentioned earlier in this letter, I spoke of never being alone despite being a loner. I felt at ease with Mother Nature and all the calls of the woods and the squawks of the magnificent birds of prey hovering above. But soon I would find out it was not just the feeling of being one with Mother Nature that made me feel this way. It was something else, something lurking deep in the woods that was watching me. Not to sound redundant, as I mentioned earlier, this feeling almost immediately started in that 3rd year. It was kind of odd, and I could not put a finger on it. I just felt out of sorts of something, yet did not feel threatened or scared, just different. This same feeling lasted for another 3 years, and I grew accustomed to this odd feeling, and it became part of my life. Starting at 7th year is when it all changed. That year, I bought 3 Alaskan Malamute pups. Being a fan of the Three Stooges, I appropriately named them Larry, Moe, and Curly. The first 6 months raising my pups was a delight. I had plenty of room for them to roam my property to exercise, frolic about, and play. They were so rambunctious that they would wear me out on a daily basis, the fact where I had to go take a nap. Then, one stormy night, I heard the most robust howl and roar that seemed to literally shake my 1,500 square foot cabin. I had attributed this to the thunder at first. Larry, Mo, and Curly almost immediately cowered, tails between their legs, and dashed underneath my dining room table. We had been through thunder and lightning before without a stirring from my dogs, but this was different. My pups were shaking. This is when I fully realized that this was not the sound of the weather, but something massive and close. I felt unnerved for the very first time in 7 years. The weather cleared, and that thunderous vocalization, which once only bellowed once, made me feel a bit more comfortable, as again, I did not hear it again. Yet my dogs still would not leave from under the confines of the dining room table. I always talked to my dogs like they were human and assured them everything was okay, and I left the cabin to scout about my property. About 50 yards to the south, I was astonished to see a set of huge human-like footprints. I was so amazed that I rushed back into the cabin to grab a tape measure. I could not believe the size as I measured a length of 22 inches long by almost 7 inches wide. The most bewildering part was the impression had 5 distinct toes. This was indeed an actual footprint. I almost immediately thought, this has to be Bigfoot. I have always known of the possibility that these creatures exist. I even heard the tales over the years with my monthly trips back into town to get supplies, but never really thought much of them. Like most, I imagine and continue about life. My mind started to wander as maybe Bigfoot does exist, and maybe that was the source of my feelings of being watched. But I needed more evidence, and I took up Bigfoot hunting in my area. For the next 4 months, I read up on Bigfoot and started to follow some well-known researchers. My favorite was that of Ron Moorhead and the Sierra Sounds. He talks of these creatures being flesh and blood with an innate ability to perhaps be interdimensional. I found this in his book, The Quantum Bigfoot. I also need to add that the loud howl that stormy night never returned, and not a single footprint appeared on my property thereafter. In fact, I became frustrated finding no evidence during my 4-month research project. I decided to take a week off to re-energize my body and mind. During this week off, I started to forget about Bigfoot and just dropping this whole phenomena. Then one night, around 6 p.m. on a very clear and calm evening, the thunderous roar returned, and it seemed closer. My pups, now about a year old, rushed beneath the dining room table as they did during the previous storm. I looked out onto my property where I thought the roar came from and saw nothing. I then petted Larry, Curly, and Mo, and went to the top deck where my telescope was to scan the area. Being that this was much higher, I hoped to get a glimpse of something. I panned the tree line for 15 minutes or so and saw nothing. Then, that thunderous roar came again. I believe I pinpointed the direction of the howl and swung my telescope in that area. Again, nothing. I turned back and headed downstairs to check on my Malamutes, and before I get to the bottom of the staircase, all 3 dogs started howling like I had never heard before. But their howl was that of fright. Not knowing what to do, either check on my dogs or run back up to my telescope, I decided I needed to run back upstairs. Earlier in this letter, Rob, I made mention that my deck is 10 feet above ground. When I got back to the top of the stairs, I went straight to my telescope. I stopped dead in my tracks. A huge, human-like figure's head was just above the top railing, staring in at me. Mouth agape, exposing frightening teeth, animal-like teeth. It was covered in dark hair, and despite looking human, it had the look of an animal as well. The eyes glowed yellow and seemed to look right past me. I am in shock. I can't move. Then the beast turns towards the wood line and sprinted back into the woods. I got my senses together, checked on my terrified dogs, and ran outside. When I get outside, I don't see the creature, but I found a set of tracks streaking towards the wood line. They were the same 22-inch tracks, and they had an amazing 6-foot gate between them. The tracks were not side by side like a human, but followed more in a straight line or a straight pattern. I followed the tracks at least 50 feet, then to my surprise, the tracks literally stopped. They vanished. They vanished a good 100 yards before the tree line. Where did they go? Is this possible? I said aloud. I remember reading in Ron Moorhead's book about Bigfoot being multi-dimensional, that can disappear. Did this occur? 8 years have passed since that night, and I go looking for this creature with no success. The howls have stopped, no tracks, and the dogs seem at ease. I guess I am lucky that nothing else has happened. To this day, however, I still look for that visitor. I must admit, I am unsure if I want to see him again. Thanks for this, Rob. Regards, Rick.
Hey, I love Bigfoot Michigan Rob. He tells the best stories on YouTube. Hey, Country Boy Explorer, when you check out some of my videos, check out the one where I caught the demon thing on camera. Now, that will freak you out. It's big, it's glowy, it's a monster in the woods. Growling sounds I've never heard before. Check out the one called the Palmetto Dog Man, caught on camera, where I actually catch this big, hairy, wolf-like creature, like a mutant canine from hell. On camera, it's true. Hey, I actually, last week, caught a big 7-foot hairy something or another. It's called Bigfoot, caught on camera. It's got like 1,000 views on my channel. And it was like this big hairy thing that just, I put the flashlight on it, it stood up and turned around and run. But it freaked me out so bad, I'm still not over it. You know, I live 115 yards from an old Indian burial ground. And a couple of weeks ago, I blasted some Native American chants in the woods. And ever since then, things have been real weird. That's why I keep the camera pointed on the woods while I'm playing some music and telling some stories and letting Bigfoot Rob tell some stories. And I keep the camera on the woods because you just don't never know what's going to happen. Actually, while I've been doing this stream, I've heard dogs barking in the distance. I heard a howl or two, but it's undetermined what it was. You know, if anything ever kicks off, I'll grab the camera and run straight towards it, and we'll have something on a live stream, and that's what I'm hoping happens one day. One day, I'll actually catch something live. Wait and see. And I'm going to do another Bigfoot encounter with Bigfoot Michigan Rob. And then I'm going to close the show after that, playing some more Bigfoot tunes that you probably never heard. So stick around. And I love Starbucks ice cream because Starbucks is good. What?
Hey everybody, it's me, Bigfoot Michigan Rob. I hope that everybody had a great Thanksgiving. I had a pretty good one, spent it with the family. Outside of the fact that my Detroit Lions suffered a loss for those keeping score to the Buffalo Bills by the score of 28-25. Again, much of you don't care about my Lions, but I always have to mention them. Please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube. I do 2 live shows. Tuesdays at 9 in the East is Beyond BMR. Last Tuesday was a great show. Sibylla Irwin sketched Bigfoot encounters. She's a great artist. We did about 6 pictures that she, drew, and they're fabulous. And she told a story behind each one, which is fabulous. Go check it out. Also, Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob's on Thursdays at 1 in the East. Also, subscribe if you would, if not already, to Texas Front Porch. We're on just about every day during the week. This, you guys, is Encounter Stories, episode episode 2, not taking place of subscriber encounters. I'll have a subscriber encounter for you guys next week. And please go check that out if you haven't already. Again, we're going to get on with it. This takes place in the Palmetto State Park. And here we go. Upon hiking the Palmetto State Park in the state of Texas, my husband and I decided to venture down the San Marcos River Trail. It was a beautiful and crisp February day, and the fresh air filled our lungs, as well as the fabulous fragrances that only Mother Nature can afford us. We were the only ones on the trail, and as we progressed, we decided to walk down the San Marcos riverbank. While we approached the riverbank, my husband and I noticed a set of footprints. Unusually large for feet, but we really did not give it a second thought as we were enjoying the beautiful scenery while listening to the sounds of the birds and the other wildlife that surrounded us. My husband was trailing in back of me as we decided to proceed up the sandy bank to get back up to the trail. Then angrily, my husband had shouted out to me that somebody had thrown a large rock at him, landing only a few feet in the back of him. I had blown it off as thinking that my husband was joking and trying to get a rise out of me. Once we reached the top of the hill, my husband had made mention that he was not joking, and a rock, perhaps the size of a baseball, came extremely close to him, and it almost hit him. As we proceeded down the trail, we heard strange noises in the background, like the breaking of tree branches. And they sounded, frankly, just odd, a bit odd. We both brushed it off due to the fact that it was wildlife, and we just decided to enjoy the day. Later, while still hiking the San Marcos River Trail, we heard a very strange howl or grunt, kind of hard to put a finger on it. There had been quite a few cows in the area, and thought that perhaps this had been the source of this strange sound. However, my husband, being in the slaughter business, knew every sound that a cow can make, and this was definitely not one of them. We came upon a fork in the trail that now picked up the Mesquite Flats Trail. My husband and I had decided to take this new pathway. After several minutes hiking this trail, that strange sound, howl, whatever it was, rang out again, out in the near distance. My husband and I tried not to panic. We stayed calm, and again attributed it to odd vocalizations in the wildlife, yet we couldn't put a finger on it. Several minutes down the trail, we crossed an adjacent trail and approached a bridge that we crossed over. Upon crossing the bridge, we heard the sound of a large snap, which kind of sounded like a firecracker going off. We then realized the sound was that of a rather large tree limb that had fallen to the ground. Now we hear running through the woods. The running did not sound like that of a human, nor the sound of an animal. It was really extremely hard to place what it was.
Share your
You know,
journey
we're
on
gonna take a
Facebook
quick
and get
break.
inspired to try something new.
Hope you enjoyed
Maybe
that.
you're looking to make a difference in your community.
The heavy footfall pounded the ground, and we knew this was close, as literally you could feel the vibration underneath our feet. Now we're getting a little bit scared and apprehensive. Then I saw it. Looking towards the tree line, an extremely tall and black figure was moving fast between the trees and the brush. This figure was much too stealthy to be a person. It was neither long nor lean. It was not close to the ground like perhaps a deer or a cougar. It was on two legs and had a girth much wider than that of a bear's. Then this creature, or whatever it was, it disappeared from sight. Kind of like it vanished before my eyes. My husband and I had decided to walk back across the bridge to where we heard the large tree fall, or the limb, I should say. Our effort was for naught, as we could not locate anything that could substantiate that crashing sound or that heavy footfall. Then, for one last time, I looked back towards the area where I had seen this creature. In the distance, I saw what appeared to be a huge black stump. I've got to tell you, this was not a stump. Directly in front of my eyes, this stump rose straight up on two legs, and almost as immediately as it rose, it quickly disappeared back into the forest. My husband and I then decided that this was time. It was time for us to leave while we still had a chance. This is an encounter that I will never forget. I don't know. Yeah, that was certainly a pretty cool story. Heavy footfall. You know, they make mention of sounds of cows, but not really. Certainly cows don't stand on two legs. Bears on two legs aren't stealthy, moving amongst the brush. So yeah, they saw something. What did they see? Well, that's for us to decide, I guess, process this. I hope you enjoyed this one. This was Bigfoot Encounters number 2. Next week I will have...
And that's Bigfoot Michigan Rob. Hey, Mox, I'm glad we're cool, because I ain't never want no trouble with you. I just never wanted nobody banned from a live stream. That's why we got into it. Hey, them videos I made, I will take them down now that we are cool. Because I never wanted no trouble with you, but I really don't like Roy. He's a prick. Yeah, I said it, Roy. Yeah, you're an irritating... whatever. I'm not going to get into it here. But I'm glad we're cool, Mox, because I can't stand it, man. I don't want to be argumentative and ill with people I like. Because, Mox, I really do like you. We think alike on everything but Harper. You know, and I put up with Harper because I didn't want him banned from a live stream, you know. I wasn't trying to be a jackass or nothing. We're going to finish out tonight playing some more songs. I hope you enjoyed my little music as we close the night out. Hey, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And be sure to check me out on my other channels. You'll find them links in the stream. And I want to tell everybody, please, leave that fucking Bigfoot alone.
Got big, fat, fuzzy, freaky feet. His posture is bad and it don't smell sweet. He got long, lazy, crazy, funky arms that swing. Hippie hair all over everything. It's 8'4" and a size 19. Feet so big it doesn't like to be seen. He got people in the woods hunting it down, but it will not be found. So leave Bigfoot alone. Leave Bigfoot alone. He's got a hard enough time just trying to get by without you bits of light. He got light brown, beautiful eyes that sing, a heart of gold and a slate that is clean. He got a big fat booty that it likes to shake, and it would never hesitate to dance in the woods up under the sky, feeling the groove and digging a vibe until the man with the camera comes out from the trees. Mister, would you please leave Bigfoot alone? Oh, yeah. fuzzy, freaky feet. Its posture is bad and it don't smell sweet. It got long, lazy, crazy, funky arms that swing. Hippie hair all over everything. It's 8'4" and a size 19. Feet so big it rarely likes to be seen. It got people in the woods that is hunting it down, but it will not be found. So leave Bigfoot alone. Leave Bigfoot alone. He's got a hard enough time just trying to get by without you people prying into its life. Just leave him alone. Leave Bigfoot alone. He's got a hard enough time just trying to get by without you people trying to prove it's a lie.
A Bigfoot classic. Hey, I got a Lizard Man classic
Shell
too.
renewable race fuel,
And I love.
reducing emissions by 60%.
Then I gotta
We're
play a
moving forward
commercial
with
real quick.
IndyCar
Because you gotta satisfy the sponsors.
Shell, powering
Shell,
progress.
sponsor of the Daily Dan blog. What?
From deep in the south where the Boston's ramble, down in the swamp in the briar and the bramble, comes a tale that's known to me and you. Late at night on the Browntown Road, a local man heard his tire blow, and he stopped to see what he could do. As he got out and tried to fix it, he was met by a local cryptid, and that creature gave him such a fright. In his lights he saw it plainly, tall and green and wet and scaly. Then he knew that something wasn't right. He got back in and tried to flee, but the monster wouldn't let him be. Chased him down and jumped onto the car. He hit the brakes and the creature fell, and then it let out quite a yell as the man drove off into the dark. Oh, poor old lizard man, he's just doing what he can. He never meant us any harm. He's just misunderstood, living out there in the woods. There ain't no cause for alarm. Poor old lizard man. Now here's the part that you may not know about what took place on Browntown Road and why that lizard man jumped on that car. He was late to a birthday party for the Green Swamp Hag of Sumter County, and the walk to Sumter was too far. He thought if he could catch a ride, he could make it there in time to spend the evening with his cryptid crew. He didn't know that he was frightful, he just isn't that insightful, but we know his motives, they were true. Oh, poor old lizard man, he's just doing what he can. He never meant us any harm. He's just misunderstood, living out there in the woods. There ain't no cause for alarm. Poor old lizard man. So if ever you should see him, don't be scared or try to flee him. There's no reason you should be afraid. Maybe stop as you pass by and ask him if he needs a ride, or just smile and wish him a good day. Oh, poor old lizard man, he's just doing what he can. He never meant us any harm. He's just misunderstood, living out there in the woods. There ain't no cause for alarm. Poor old lizard man. Poor old lizard man.
Well, it's come to that time of the night for Wolfman Dan to say goodnight. Hey, I want to thank everybody for joining me. All the cool people like AAP and Iron Dogger. Hey, I even got the Tribal Chief Mox in here, and we made peace, and that means a lot to the Daily Dan. It really does. Wolfman Dan is a Mox fan deep down inside. He's kind of my dude, you know. We always see eye to eye on wrestling stuff. Hey, I'm going to close it out with the theme song, and I want to thank everybody for joining me. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share this shit out. And until next time, this is Wolfman Dan saying keep it real. And eat ice cream? What?
Now in South Carolina, way down yonder, there's a big old critter that likes to wander around my backyard sometimes late at night.
Thanks for coming on, dogger.
Beaver, bobcat, or bear, 'cause he's 8 foot tall and covered in hair. And the first time I seen him, he gave me quite a fright. Well, he eats from my garden and pees in my grass, and he stings like a skunk mixed with grizzly bear ass, and he scares my cats when they smell him come around. Well, he spends his time peeking around trees, and he thinks what he wants, and he does what he pleases, like scratching his butt and making a grunting sound. Sasquatch, Sasquatch, knocking on the trees, chucking rocks and screaming like a troop of chimpanzees. Sasquatch, Sasquatch, running around my place. Are you the missing link, or are you from outer space? Now you may wonder, what does a Sasquatch do when he's wandering around at 1:45 in the middle of the night because he's feeling down? Well, he comes on over to visit my house. I think he has a little thing for my spouse, 'cause she always feels like someone is around. Well, he looks in the windows and checks out my wife. Can't say as I blame him. She looks pretty nice in a fuzzy robe as green as the foam of the sea. Well, he stands and he blinks as he ponders and thinks about humans and love, and she smiles so sweet. He wonders what the heck she sees in me. Sasquatch, Sasquatch, stop looking in my windows. I think it's kinda creepy, you voyeuristic weirdo. Sasquatch, Sasquatch, keep your big paws to yourself. Ain't you got a lady Sasquatch to raise your Sasquatch whelps? Well, I made a report to BFRO. Them fellers that got that Squatch hunting show. Finding Bigfoot is what they're all about. They said people see them all the time. Make lots of reports that are just like mine. And if you see them too, go ahead and give them a shout. Now I wish I knew some Sasquatch lingo. I'd invite him on over to party and mingle with me and my wife and a few of our closest friends. But I guess I'll smile and just wave hi the next time the big guy comes walking by, saying